it was like they would close one down to open up another one.
Well, I guess 17 casters would be a lot of manpower.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Eastwatch by the Sea. Who likes this map? How do you guys feel? How do you feel about this map, SteAdFast?
I like that there's trains.
This map is dumb.
Yeah, I don't like playing on it too much personally. It's like a bigger map and like the bases.
There's not a single.
There's like a fourth
style.
Gold for Zerg.
Yeah, there's not a single style that Protoss or Terran can really like abuse that Zerg can't fully abuse.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that actually. I would say that I haven't had a chance to like fully explore this into the late game. But it doesn't feel good for the other races. Like it doesn't feel like any of the other races would have a good time on it if the Zerg player just decides to like fully utilize the toolkit.
Yep. 100%.
Also,
I feel like we're already saying that this is like a Zerg map. Like,
you can already tell, like the distance, the map, how you expand, the amount of fucking counter attacks are ridiculous. Like the only thing that Protoss and Terran, since their structures are somewhat kind of the same, that you can do is that you can secure a relatively nice third, but after the rocks are broken, it's up to you to defend it, kind of thing. Where it's like as Zerg, if you have overlords on the outlying stuff on the cliffs and creep spread to a certain point, you're pretty much well defended from either side.
Like this map, from my limited understanding, is like you have a lot of options. You have a lot of options with the rocks. A lot of options. Like it's supposed to be a standard map. Are there any particular like rocks that you close off of right away?
This one right here.
Yeah, the one into the third.
This is not usually broken down unless you're a Zerg player and you're taking the gold because you don't want it to be closed off.
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
As a Protoss player, I usually don't break down those rocks because this is the fourth base I need to be taking.
Yeah.
So then you would want to break them down to break them anyways, though.
I guess that's true.
I think that's exactly how all Protoss players, like xKawaiian was saying that last time, is where he does not ever go fan. He doesn't expand fan-wise. He expands singular.
Up and down, yeah. From along the side of the map. Do you do that too, Creature? That you go along the map? Is that a specific Protoss thing?
If I'm like trying to play a turtle style, I definitely want to go like expand like upwards. But if I'm playing like if I want to do like a sort of like 3-base timing, I sometimes I do take the gold base and then
I do not like the middle rocks either. I think the middle rocks definitely throw pathing off quite a bit.
Isn't that the purpose though? Like the whole area.
Yeah, but like what units actually like fuck you over the most is like any starport units that can get caught out easily. Like Phoenixes are pretty tanky. Mutas, I guess, might, but you don't ever have them in the same control group as your ground army.
Oh, that supply block.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this Protoss man.
he panics.
Yeah, he does not know how to deal with this properly. That's for sure.
But like, yeah. And there's so many things I don't like about this map. It was a good try for like a big macro orientated map, but this is definitely not it.
No, this was a swing and a miss for me.
Why is it a swing and a miss for you, SteAdFast? Like what?
Oh, just because I don't think it was well designed. I think for all of the reasons that have been listed so far.
Oh, there's no. So okay, you're all onto the whole idea of the rocks and pathing. Like, not too good for, even though we kind of said that this might have been a good Zerg map.
It's just a poor design in general.
I feel like it's also for Zerg in like the super late game. I was watching Nurtrio versus Sol in the
oh my god
qualifiers.
Okay,
he covered the entire map in creep, and there's like nothing that Sol could do.
To be fair, Sol never once tried to clear the creep.
Yeah,
but
he tried to go late game into ghosts and stuff and just.
And he kept dropping into corruptors. Like he lost like 15 drops.
I mean, it's a map where you can't get any drops out if like the Zerg has fuck all of any kind of like major scouting tools, because there's no airspace, like abusable airspace where you can like have drops. And like we talked about this last week too, is like any map that you don't have any like airspace for drops and you can't clear off overlords initially with like Vikings, like in the first 5 minutes, it's so hard to get dropped.
Pylon, you idiot! Oh my god.
Yeah, what the hell? Oh, sorry. I just want to draw attention to the fact that he had 5 shield batteries and didn't heal the pylon. Sorry, that was infuriating.
Anybody I've ever seen.
Sorry, so continue the point.
Go on.
So any map that you don't have a usable airspace for drops, like playing bio is pretty much the only way I see people play bio on this map is by expanding forward like a spearhead and eventually just getting to your Zerg opponent where you can push the creep straight in, and then you're kind of fully surrounded on all sides. But as long as you have 1 or 2 sensor towers, and we see every Terran player that plays bio on this map, that's how they do it when they do get close to to the point where they feel comfortable with the Zerg.
But you see bringing out your sensor towers into the middle of the map? Sorry, I missed that.
So pretty much, I don't want to make it, it's not like a penis joke or anything, but you take the first 3 bases and you go straight into the map, and you go as hard as you can into the map, because if you don't, and you if you take a more creature style where you go upward and you try to expand outward, you're just going to be overwhelmed by where the Zerg actually knows what you're going to do. And the only way to actually cover your tracks is to have buildings and army units in the rally point, which is drops will never do anything on this map. So that's why. Because
of the limited airspace, you were saying.
Yeah, and that's why most Terran players will play mech. If you're going to play bio, you're going to play this is going to be your 4th base, and then you're going to try to eventually just push into the Zerg base and just overwhelm the rally points. Because maps on this, these cliffs are really great for tank positioning. But you can't get there unless the Zerg creep is unless creep is not there. So that's where it's you've seen all these matches where bio Terrans do that. They have 2 good pushes. They have the first push to actually push out of the to try to deny the 4th base, and then they have the 2-2 tank push. So those 2 pushes are all about creep spread and if the Zerg player knows it's coming or not, and how much it's coming, and how to evaluate it. So that's why I feel that's the only way for Terran to actually win on this map, playing bio.
I see. I saw Mario. He did some cool tank drop. He puts the 2 tanks on the cliff, and then he has a double medevac marine.
Yes, he absolutely wrecked Nergio with that. No, I was actually, that was something that I wanted to talk about tonight, is that we don't see players doing that anymore. There are still things on maps that you can abuse like that. We just don't see it from players at all. The player,
I haven't seen something like that since the Lost Temple days, where you could put tanks on the high ground and kill the other person's natural from there.
Well,
why do you think that is actually?
I would disagree that we don't see that anymore. I would say, or at least not that long. I would just say that the players who do it don't play the game anymore.
Right.
They just find ways to win through sheer macro,
examples.
Okay, so the best player to do that, Holt, absolutely. He for a very, very long time was one of the best players in the world mechanically, and then he wasn't. But he kept winning tournaments for 1.5 years to 2 years after that, because he was still doing things that took advantage of map features and did build orders that people didn't think of for so long. And I
was thinking that he would be very map specific in terms of his way to win. He would win using the map more to his advantage,
absolutely, as
opposed to players currently are just sort of just outskilling each other. I just want to make sure I understand what you're
oh my god, those yes, that's exactly what I'm saying actually. The way the game is played right now is obviously we're seeing the pinnacle of skill in macro and whatnot, but because of that, players are really beginning to ignore the strategic aspect of the game in a lot of ways.
That's interesting.
But a lot of the times, you also argue that it doesn't actually matter. If you it matters, but not to a point where you don't really see positional wins. How can I keep going? I'm trying to think of a good way to explain this without making myself sound retarded.
We all hope for that.
I think it's a similar thing to what I'm already saying, which is that players, instead of trying to finesse wins out in a really cute way, they're just like, oh, okay, well, I can just be better than my opponent. Like, I can just make a move that will win me the game as a part
isn't
of,
that,
like...
Isn't that efficient, though?
So basically what you're saying, you have, like, less builds that are, like, purely map-specific. Like, you wouldn't do that on any other map except that.
Yeah.
Like,
a little
that Mario build, like, that was, like, a map-tailored build.
A little bit, yeah.
But
And I
Mario's
think
also like a bad excuse because he's like just so mechanically like amazing, you know, like
He can do it either way without doing a specific.
yeah, like he still makes 2-on-1 work in TVZ, which is just laughable. But
who are you talking about?
Mario.
Yeah, but well, and I'm saying he doesn't fall into the category really of doing that.
Sorry, before you go into that, we're just gonna rewind a little bit, so we can just go for a little bit on this map.
Sure. He would I would say he just kind of did it as an act of convenience more so than like that necessarily being his game plan. Maybe it was his game plan, but it wasn't like, oh man, I need to do this to beat Nurchio. Like it's who he was. He's a very good player. He doesn't necessarily need to have something special to beat a player like Nurchio. Nurchio is very good in his own right, but Maru's literally the best player in the world right now. But I like, and I think part of the reason that we don't see these map-specific builds anymore is because the economy changes.
Right.
So a lot of like 2-base builds and a lot of builds that if you caught your opponent off guard were really strong. They don't have the power that they used to because of like.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And I think that's a real shame actually. Like obviously, most people would agree that the 12-worker change is like a
for the better.
Yeah, it's an improvement. But like we really lost out on something very cool.
Do you think we've lost out, or is it just sort of phased out? Like, do you like? I feel like if there was certain changes in the game, do you think you might see something that like a rise, or do you think it's just gone because like permanently gone?
I think 2-base all-in is permanently gone.
Yeah, I think it's permanently gone as well. I don't think it can come back.
They've taken everything out that makes a 2-base all-in actually decent. Like,
yeah,
if you think Heart of the Swarm, like you can do something like a Hellion drop, like 1-on-1. That's was so viable back then. It was like the only thing viable back then because there was so much variety in what you could do, and then you can have a strong follow-up. Nowadays, like everything's so excelled to where your window of like harassment potential is so narrowed down to a point where you can't actually do anything. Like after your Hellion drop, like your opponent's already going to be having a 3rd base out, and you have to push thin or else you just lose. Which is why we see a lot of like people that tend to do like hard timings that actually pressure Zerg, talking from a TVZ point of view, is like very stuff that's like, it's a hit or miss. Like you either do this kind of much damage or you just leave the game. Like Hellbats, or like Banshees or like Liberators. Like it's all like after this, you either see a big 2-base follow-up or you see it like a 2-2 tank push timing, which is what I've been saying for a while.
One of the reasons like players like MC were so good back in the day is because like if your 2-base all-in failed, like it wasn't the end of the world.
No, you could slowly take a 3rd.
Yeah. And also like you still have full mineral patches, so like technically you could like max out on 2-base.
Yeah.
I think they need to bring Tinkervax back.
Oh,
really?
God.
That's a very aggressive request.
Yeah, that's a hard no. That's gonna be a no for me, dog.
Like you can't 2-base Zerg anymore. It's really hard to it's just hard to like coming from a person that literally built his like whole career on 2-base all-inning, like, and I'm sure Poke Bunny, if he's still playing nowadays or even watching, like.
No, didn't you see his Reddit tantrum? He's not playing it. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's very hard for a 2-base all-in to actually work now. Like it's almost non-existent.
It doesn't work.
It's pretty depressing because like that's definitely like.
Is that depressing?
I only learned, and you could also say like just learn how to play late game, and I've been forced to. I've literally been forced to a point where I cannot not like how to learn how to play late game, but like.
That's almost more exciting though for the viewers, in my opinion. Though
for the viewers, maybe, but like the way to play is like a lot of people definitely like the mid game. Like a lot of people like that because Terran was about this like scrappy slugfest, you know. Like if you think about Heart of the Swarm, it was when like Mutiling Bling versus Biomine, and it's purely mechanical, you know. Like you have to keep up with your macro, you have to keep up with your injects, you have to micro your mines, micro your marines against banelings, and if you messed up once, then like both units, both races have potential to actually bring the game back. Like one lucky baneling hit, one lucky widow mine, you know. And that was fun. Nowadays I feel like TVZ is more like, oh, you have enough or you don't have enough, and then that literally decides the game right then and there.
Right. I think I remember seeing someone in one of the community updates is that they were working towards ending game-ending damage, or is it called like game-ending splash damage?
And that's why they nerfed the widow mine. But I
kind of do enjoy that. I have to admit, I do enjoy like the oh shit moments where you're like,
well, that's what made Heart of the Swarm fun. Besides, you know, like mech being aggressively OP against Zerg, and also like Protoss beating Zerg. Pretty much Protoss and Terran like beat up Zerg. Like Zerg was definitely the worst race, I think, in Heart of the Swarm.
Which is so funny because it was the Zerg expansion. But like, we got the short end of the stick in a very profound way in Heart of the Swarm. It was painful to be a Zerg at that time.
Like the only styles that you'd actually look up to as a Zerg player in Heart of the Swarm was like Jaedong, when he learned to do the like mass like just roachling, and then you go into mass mutas against Protoss, because that was really hard for Protoss players to deal with. And also like that was like the only strat really. Like
that's how
really hard to go.
That's how Libby B got GM.
Of course, Adam would know this.
I just had to drop it.
But like that kind of like, and like, because you couldn't go, and you couldn't, as a Protoss player, you couldn't go high tech units anymore, like because Vipers were so good, and like people didn't know how to really play against Vipers. So I guess it's also like an unknown factor. Like you don't know how to play versus this, or you like don't know how to use this unit to the fullest capabilities. You know what I'm saying? Or it's like too over capable. Like the Liberator in the beginning, Legacy of the Void, people forget that, you know, when people were playing like Lean Bling Muta, like Terran player, and I love this time, is when Terran players were playing literally Biomine Liberator, and they would never see Liberators until they killed all the mutas, and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna send one Liberator to each hatchery and just like literally kill all your eggs and stuff, so you can't produce anything.
Yeah, that was a rough time.
I barely remember that.
But that was like the golden time of like the time I learned how to play like Biomine. You know, it was definitely like a fun time to play as Terran player. But I would say the Liberator was definitely in need of like a nerf back then. But I think like going through like 3 cycles of nerfs has like made it like a little bit to a point where you can't ever do that again.
Okay, so I want to bring up, before we jump there, I want to bring up the last points of this map, and then we just round off things, and then we can just do a little bit more banter. For people's mirror matchups, Taylor, how you feel on this map?
I'll be honest, I only all in on this map. It's a really hard map for TVT. You're spread pretty thin. You usually do play against the mech players, but the third is wide enough to where you can actually kind of deny the third. So you just wait for that moment and you just all in. Any map that has like really weird, like really wide out thirds, and you can't take the gold base as a Terran against if you're a mech player, so you have to take this like upward third. You have to like a velo style it, where it's like massive amounts of turrets, and then you slowly take one base at a time. But more so, it's just a lot of shenanigans on this map. Like Cloak Banshee's pretty good. This cliff right here makes it okay for like a lot of people do what's it called, 2 Cyclones and a medevac, and then like 4 Reapers, kind of like the old Boxer style, where in like back then when people would use they didn't know how to use Hellions or Reapers, they would just float the or they put the Hellions in the medevac. You can still do that on this map, but Cyclones are just, you know, ton more better than Hellions in the early game, so, or you know, to be argued, but like against units. And it's a map where like you can take a natural. It's really hard to take a third, so you kind of push the edge when it comes to harassment tools in TVT.
Creature, what about yourself? When you do PvP?
I actually kind of enjoy this map, PvP. One of the reasons is that it's pretty, unlike Abiogenesis or even the last map, backwater, you have the tight ramp here, which makes defending like 4 gates and like early aggression a lot easier. So you can easily.
Where? Just ping it so that.
Where's the thing? Here.
You Alt G.
But yeah, the ramp is super tiny, like leading up to the natural, so it's easier to secure your natural base, and then from there, you actually have a choice. You can take the gold base or take that one. And PvP, I like to take the gold base and be like kind of aggressive, like off 3 base. So yeah, I think PvP it makes for pretty interesting games, and you see a lot less cheese on this map in PvP.
Dave, ZVZ.
Well, unfortunately, it's still ZVZ, so you're always going to be constrained to that.
Yeah, you have to be just for completionist sake, you know.
There is a gold base, so usually you're not going to have someone go straight to the gold unless they're no regret.
No regret here.
Coming at you with another
gold base.
Fling Bane Zerg all in. Light pressure, sorry, designated pressure.
So we can get back to the banter.
Yeah, right. So the gold base does provide some early game options, but it's not game breaking. You won't expand there first. Other than that, it's just going to be another standard roach versus roach, and lurkers are really good on this map because of the relatively small chokes. ZVZ is the worst. Please remove Zerg from the game for everything.
And done. Absolutely removed from the game. Perfect. All right, can exit on this map. So I think we did overall say that Eastwatch favored Zerg more than the others.
Yeah.
I think we came to consensus for that one. That one was pretty easy peasy. But I think out of the maps that we discussed today, which actually